All right. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the O&G StrikeZone. Well, it's Bryan Fulford. I'm on location. Marcus Green in his home studio. And dealing with technical difficulties is Kelvin Rozier, soon to be joining us. Marcus, great start to the show. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great.
Glad to hear it. Just finishing up, sending the last couple of messages here out on X. So folks may be joining us, however you may be joining us. Obviously, the folks who are on X via the Black College Sports Network, or you could be watching us on Instagram Live at O&G StrikeZone, or you could be watching us on Facebook, Black College Sports Network, or O&G StrikeZone. And there you see Kelvin Rozier. I think he's got his technical issues figured out. Okay, how you doing tonight?
I'm wonderful, man. I think we'll see. It's still early.
Yeah, let's see whose connection goes. Hold on. I'm knocking on wood that this doesn't happen, but let's see whose connection holds the longest, mine or yours, Kelvin.
Well, I did have a upload of a update that loaded right before we came on, and I have one more that wants to load that I'm holding off. So we'll see.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those Windows uploads mid-show, the kiss of death. So yeah, so there it is. So we'll see. I'm on the hotel Wi-Fi, so we'll see how long that holds. Fingers crossed. And then I'm down here in the bar lounge room area. So as long as the
we can hear.
We'll see. All right. So what do we got in store for tonight's show? Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we've got the head ball coach himself, James Colzie III, coming to join us as spring football practices have resumed for the Rattlers. And then at the top of hour 2, our friend, Liv for Hoops, Liv Antilla is going to join us. The Hall of Famer, Liv Antilla. We got to put some respect on her. She's a Hall of Famer now. So we got Liv coming on at the top of hour 2. We'll talk about FAMU basketball, HBCU basketball, all kinds of good stuff, man. All kinds of good stuff. And then as we get into maybe the second half of the hour, let's see, Marcus has got some more Olympic sports committees and signees to talk about. And we'll maybe open it up to you guys. You guys have a lot of questions and questions, concerns, thoughts. And we'll try to get into all of those here over the next 2 hours. But you guys would do us a big favor if here early in the show, if you would, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, however and wherever you're watching the show. Make sure to share it on your streams, whether it be Facebook or on X or even YouTube. Go ahead and share the stream, and you can always make a donation to the show via the Cash App symbol right there, $MyJBN, MyPCSN, or if you're one of the great people who are on our Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page, you can become a member, or you can leave a super chat. Any and all ways help us keep doing this show and keep doing it at a high level. So, yeah. All right. Anything I left off there in the intro in the beginning, fellas? Marcus, you're on mute.
Doing a great job, man. You're a professional.
Good to hear. Even on location.
Yeah, you bobbing and weaving all the lobby traffic.
All right, good deal. So hopefully the Hopefully the audio comes through good. Let me see if I can make sure that I've got background noise. Yeah, background noise reduced. So we'll see if that matters. All right, let's go through some of the highlights of this our roll call, like we do at this time, and we'll say hello to the family that's joining us. Let me see where we're gonna start.
Start as always with Jimmy Mack.
Jimmy Mack, first one in the building. Jimmy, good to see you, man. Thanks for being a JBN subscriber. Appreciate you coming in and joining us. Good to see Kelvin didn't waste any time typing in, or his computer issues happened. Melissa Wilson checking in.
Hey, Melissa.
Hey, Melissa. Since Kelvin can't say hi, because he's probably on a delay of some sort, I'll say it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Gail. Hey, Gail. Thanks for being a JBN subscriber. Thank you for joining us tonight. Meredith as well. It's another JBN subscriber. Appreciate you, Meredith. B Starks. Oh, the JBN subscribers are coming in hard. Appreciate you guys. B Starks, hello to you. Mary 305 from South Florida. Good to see you. Thank you for being a JBN subscriber. Tom W. I don't even know what that is. Thank you. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Demetra, good to see you as well, Demetra. Thanks for checking in. Always a pleasure to have you. Ken, Alice, checking in. Good to see you. V Gaines in the house, checking in.
Batman.
Hey, speaking of Batman, have you checked out that new Verizon commercial? Batman. Okay, so all I'm going to say is it's going to be
I don't think I have.
It's a State Farm commercial that's going to be running all during the NCAA tournament, and you're going to be annoyed, but I keep laughing every time I see it. That's all I'm going to say so far. So anyway, State Farm commercial.
I saw a preview somewhere.
Yes, it's funny as heck. Tamara T, what's up? Thank you for joining us, being a JBN subscriber as well. Appreciate you. Watch JD TV in the house. Appreciate you. Let's see, anybody I missed? James Austin already with questions. Questions, James. Appreciate you coming in and joining us.
Hey, what's up, Batman?
Exactly. Marvin Allen checking in. Good to see you, Marvin. Little baby checking in. Little baby, good to see you. Good to see GT back on the job. Early mornings covering practices. GT3 in the house. Good to see you.
What happens on your birthday remains on your birthday.
Things Up Podcast. Keith checking in. Appreciate you, Keith. Thank you for joining the show. AD Drew in the house. Good to see you, Drew. Chuck Hunt checking in from Monroe, Louisiana. Good to see you, Chuck. Sweet checking in. Good to see you, Sweet. Thanks for checking in with us and being a JBN subscriber as well. All right. So there we go. A good roll call to start the show. Well, we can go any number of directions, guys. A lot of juicy stuff happening around FAMU. On the court, off the court. I can say, I guess we are officially into spring season now that all the winter sports are truly finished now. Shako, good to see you. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate you. Nehemiah Jefferson also checking in. Good to see you guys. Thank you for checking in. Where do you want to go? It's an open forum here for the first 15 minutes. Where do you want to
go? Probably just putting a bow on
Baseball.
Basketball. Oh, well, never mind.
Rock, paper, scissors for it. Let's go. Kelvin wants to go baseball.
A sport that starts with a B.
Yeah, a sport that starts with a B. There you go. Well, why don't we can hit baseball?
Let's go for baseball. Yeah.
Let's hit baseball up because baseball team opened up the SWAC season.
Swell.
swept UAPB, right?
Mhm.
So that was a good start to the season. Just kind of going back here and looking at through some scores. 7-6 in game one, 13-12 in game two. I think that was a game they actually had to rally to win that one, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were down 12-7 at one point in that game, and then they closed out the series with an I don't know, was that a doubleheader played on Saturday or was that an early Sunday morning?
Double
Oh, I think it was.
header, I
Yeah, I think it was
think,
Doubleheader.
doubleheader on Sunday.
on
Okay.
Saturday.
Yeah, they closed out the double sit the
Because of the weather.
doubleheader. Yeah, with a 12-5 win on Sunday. So again, I don't think FAMU hadn't played. Hold on, let me look here. We had not played UAPB in. I'm just looking here at the history. The last time we played UAPB was 2011. In February at a neutral site field. So, I mean, that's how long it's been since we have played UAPB. 14 years since our programs have met. And, you know, Kelvin, I think that's one of the unique aspects already of this new scheduling format for the SWAC. So yeah, we're gonna be playing teams that, again, for those of you who are in a bubble, or
Am I freezing or is Bryan freezing?
I don't know. You know, to me,
I
it
think
seems
you are,
like you're
Kelvin.
freezing.
Yeah, there's a delay.
Yeah, it might be. You know, who knows? Again, I thought it might have been you, but anyway, yeah. So we'll give Kelvin a chance to kind of figure out his situation and kind of come back. You there, Kelvin? Okay. So anyway, for
I'm
anybody
here.
who's not okay, I'm just trying to figure out if you know, it seems to be a delay on when you're catching me. So, any comments on? Did you catch what I was saying? I was trying to lead you into talking about the UAPB series, the fact that we hadn't played them in 14 years, and that's sort of one of the unique things about this schedule.
Well, I like that we're playing multiple teams that we normally wouldn't play on the West. I do like that schedule, and it's total opposite of softball, which I find interesting. But I guess the coaches on that side wanted something different. But you know, UAPB has a new coach who was a former major league scout. So you know, first year, and he's trying to develop the program. Obviously, they can hit the ball a little bit, but struggle with pitching, like most of us do after our first or second pitcher. So a solid win, got us on the right track, and we got another important series early where we play Alabama State coming up. Glad we got a sweep.
Um, Now, currently, we are playing the makeup series or the makeup game that we had scheduled with University of Florida. Currently, in the bottom of the sixth inning, I jumped over to the live stat tracker. FAMU is trailing 9-4 in the bottom of the sixth inning. We gave up 3 runs in the bottom of the first, but we answered in the top of the second with 4 runs and actually had a lead through 2.5 innings. In the bottom of the third inning, Florida put 5 runs on us to jump ahead 8-4. And again, gave up a run in the fourth. No runs given up in the fifth. We didn't score any. But right now, we have scored 4 runs on 6 hits. Florida has scored 9 runs on 7 hits. So again, right now we're playing the 13th ranked Florida Gators, 9-4, bottom of the 6th inning. So there's our live in-game update. We do return. You talked about the upcoming series, Kelvin. We travel to Montgomery this weekend to take on Alabama State. Anybody have a record? What's Alabama State? How they do in their first opening series in the SWAC?
I did look it up. I think their record is similar to ours.
Okay.
They have two.
We're losing. I don't know. Again, Marcus, you may have to be the arbiter here of all things and whose connection is doing what. I think I was losing Kelvin there for a minute. You're on mute, so that doesn't help it.
Yeah, Kelvin's is lagging.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I told you it'd be
Sniper.
It'd be
Sniper, stop
something.
sniping.
Yeah, it'd be something going on here. Yeah. So, but anyway, this week is Alabama State coming up this weekend, and we'll see what they do. Those of you, I don't know, is that Florida game? Is it on ESPN Plus? Anybody in the chat room, let us know if that game is on ESPN Plus right now.
I think it said it was on the SEC network from the tweet that the University of Florida sent out, but I can double check real quick.
Let me see. I'm gonna jump.
I don't know if that's an extra subscription or if that's wrapped into ESPN Plus. I thought it was a separate subscription for SEC network, but I've never invested in it. So,
all right, Troy White, appreciate you with the update. Troy says Alabama State currently 2-1 in the SWAC, so they didn't. They lost one of their 3 games. Who did they play? Troy, help us out there. Who did they play? I wasn't paying attention that hard. And the game is on the SEC Network Plus. Hollow says it's on ESPN Plus. So, yeah, so you should be able to. I'm going to see if I can pull it up here on my phone while I'm sitting here. Here, I see it. Okay, good stuff. All right, so we got live baseball action. The score is 10-4 right now. Still in the bottom of the 6th inning. So, it's a moonshot. Boom.
Both of y'all are freezing now.
We just gave up a 2-run homer.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Alabama State just finished up with Grambling State. All right. So now we're down 12-4. All right. Well, tough run. But again, the Rattlers are traveling to Montgomery, taking on Alabama State this upcoming weekend. And then I think they come out of that series with a contest against Troy back in Tallahassee on Wednesday before the series with Prairie View A&M. So, all right. So we'll give Kelvin a chance to figure out what he's got going on. Marcus, care to jump over to softball while we're also on the diamond? Want to talk about softball for a minute?
Yeah. Well, looks like we took it on the chin. It started out promising down in Daytona, but game 1 was good, but then game 2 and game 3 happened. So we were looking for a repeat of our opening series against Alabama State, but it wasn't to be. The Wildcats played tough. And it looks like they came back in one of those games.
Yeah, game number 3. So as you mentioned, we won game 1 7-3. Lost the first game of the doubleheader on Saturday 5-1. And then the second game of the doubleheader, we were up 3-0, and gave up I believe a 4-run 6th or 7th inning, but ended up losing 4-3 in the rubber game of that series. So the team is currently 3-3 in conference play, with a trip to Huntsville, Alabama this weekend, taking on Alabama A&M. Yeah, and shout out to Dolph FAMU Equipment checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see you. We got to get you on the show. Kind of give us a new position. We got to get you in here sometime when you got some time. But yeah, so the ladies taking on Alabama A&M here upcoming in Huntsville, Alabama, Friday, 3:00 Eastern time, and then the doubleheader on Saturday at 1 and 3. Yeah.
Did they change that? Because I thought last year, and you're gonna have to help me remember. I thought last year they were going to like 3-game series, like you know how Major League Baseball 1 game each day, but now it seems like we're back to doubleheaders on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I remember. I know what you're talking about. Where we went to the almost what the men were doing or baseball was doing, where you played a game on Friday, game on Saturday, game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing I can presume is that they tried it. They realized maybe for cost purposes, it made more sense. And then kind of went there. So,
yeah, that's understandable. And we brought that question up when we were informed of the format change in terms of the additional night and how that's going to work with the athletic budgets and also with school. Well, maybe not necessarily school or academic concerns, but that's still something that could loom because professors like things due on Sunday night.
Really?
Yeah, Sunday at midnight, especially with from back in our day. Even still. Yeah, but now with Canvas and all those other and Blackboard, you can make something do at 11:59 at night, electronic assignments. So it's like, oof. It's convenient from a work standpoint, be able to submit from anywhere, but you can't turn it in on Monday or else it's late, depending on what the professors want to do or how they manage their classes and what the syllabus says.
Gotcha. All right. Well, softball's total record right now is sitting at 7-16. So we'll see. The one thing they did change the whole. They did change their double headers, as you mentioned, the Saturday doubleheader thing, Marcus. Mm-hmm. But what softball did not change. They did not change the whole playing one team every weekend. They're still doing Eastern and Western Division. So we play the 5 opponents in the East 2 times, home and away. Where baseball, you have 10 of 11 SWAC opponents that you're playing one series. So that's the one thing about. Hopefully they'll get it all uniform. I would, but then again, cost is always a. All right, let's go ahead and take our first break. First break of the show. Come back. Kelvin will be in the building. I think he's got his connections figured out, and I think we'll have Coach Colzie. We scheduled Coach Colzie for the bottom of the hour, so we'll see. Hopefully his time and availability still works, and we will come back on the other side of this break. Appreciate you hanging in there with us on location, dealing with all kinds of stuff, but we'll power through as best as we can. You're watching the O&G StrikeZone right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404 664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Bryan, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Welcome back to the O&G StrikeZone. Bryan, Marcus, Kelvin, and look who's joining us right now. It's none other than our head ball coach, Coach James Colzie III. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Hey, we're battling through, Coach. We're battling through. You know, we're on location. We remote. We got connection challenges, but man, you know, we battling through it. So glad you took time to join us tonight.
No problem. And I was, when watching our basketball team, obviously battle through that Alabama State game, the Jackson State game, last week. And he said, right when they got beat, right when they hit 0-0-0, I get a bunch of texts asking me what time was practice and when did we start practice. I was like, basketball season's over with and everybody's back on football, I guess again, but no, all is well, man. It's been a great spring for us. We're getting ready to have practice 3 tomorrow morning, so we're excited to continue what we've been doing this spring.
Coach, one of my first questions has to do with the delay from 1 to 2, because what was it, about a week in between practice 1 to practice 2? I think you touched on that a little bit, but is that a preference that you?
No.
Okay, no. You definitely didn't want to do that, but was
no. There? So when we make our spring schedule, right? We wanted to have a certain amount of lifts, a certain amount of OTAs, and then we added our fourth quarter drills, right? But you remember that week of snow that we had where we didn't have classes, so we actually missed out on 4 lifts. Right, so I didn't want to lose those lifts, so all I did was just push us back a week. Where we actually got those lifts back, but what that also did was push our practice back. So normally, when we do an orange and green game, that would be our last practice. Where now our orange and green game will still be on April 12th. I didn't want to change that date, but we'll actually have a couple practices after that day. So it was just the snow. We had snow in Florida. Obviously, that put everything at a standstill, but I didn't want to lose that week of lift, so I just pushed it back and made us now move that first practice to that Friday, and we'll pick up those extra 2 practices after we're done, with the spring game.
So my quick follow-up is, how did practice 2 look from a delay? I mean, does it feel like there was a good carryover from 1 to 2, or does it feel like you're almost restarting
Well, I felt those first 3 practices. It's not like we can do a whole lot anyway, right? We got to have our helmets on. We're acclimation period. It was a lot of conditioning for us, and we were able to work on some fundamentals. So, in my opinion, it looked like we just had 2 practice ones. It was just a matter of just kind of making sure we got that first one done. We'll have our second one. We had our second one Tuesday. We'll have our last one tomorrow, and then we'll be able to be in some pads, ultimately this Friday. So, I didn't want to lose the lifts that we missed. I want to make sure we got a certain amount. So, we're going to still we still got the lifts that we needed. We're going to still get the amount of practices that that we're able to get during this time. It's just, like I said, we lost that week of that. I didn't want to lose it. So we just pushed it on. We just pushed it back.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Marcus. Get a question in there. I know Kelvin will be joining us again. He's dealing with some challenges, but he'll be back in. So go ahead, Marcus.
All right. Good evening, Coach. Thanks for coming on with us this evening. I guess my question is, how's everyone looking as coming back off of spring break? And I do have a question that's more, more administrative, if you will. But just give us an update on how everyone's looking so far.
Well, I mean, I'll go by position. And I know everyone wants to know about our quarterback position. I think right now Tyler Jefferson's doing a really, really good job for us. He's just, he's a young guy. You bring in a Musa or a Richardson over the last 2 or 3 years, and those guys are, they came in polished, right? And but right now Tyler Jefferson, Bryson Martins, those 2 guys are doing a really, really good job. Junior's been here for the last 2 or 3 years. He's coming along and doing the things that we need him to do. I just need more mature. When you look at our group, you just think that you're going to need some more maturity from that quarterback position. The running back position, we got 2 guys that were stalwarts for us last year with Thad Franklin and Bo Somerset. And then we bring in a guy like Jamal Haley from Western Michigan who can absolutely fly. So our running back position is about as good as it's been over the last 2 or 3 years that I've been here on staff, right? So offensive line, you got the Ashton Grables, the Charles Davis, guys that were All-Americans. Those guys are back. But you did lose a guy like TJ Lee and Jalen Goss, right? So, we're going to need to improve ourselves, not, with guys that we have here. But that offensive line is probably going to be a position that we're going to need to bring a couple guys in just from the portal, per se. Our wide receiver group is going to be electric. Obviously we lose a guy like Jamar Gassett, but Jalen Rogers is a guy who's going to be really, really good for us. We brought in a guy like Kanari Wilshire, who was at Illinois, and then you throw in Ace Cobb, you throw in Quan Lee, you throw in Marquez Bell, you throw in Ja'Cory Jordan. So, when you look at our offense, you got some veterans and some really, really good spots. We're gonna wait and see how our quarterbacks progress, throughout this spring to see what we may need to do after spring is done with. But for the most part, they're doing a good job. We got some veteran players, some really, really good players in some individual spots. But, in our offense, we got to be very, very good at the quarterback position. And we're going to kind of wait and see how we do throughout the spring, give them the opportunity to see what they can show, and then we'll make our decision once the spring ends. Defensively, I think when you look at our defensive line, that was a spot that we needed to really, really improve on. So we've done that. And we brought in some size. We brought in some guys that came from some FBS schools. And they're going to provide some stability at that position. So I'm excited about, you got DJ Jones coming from Virginia. You got a guy, Elijah Alexander, that came from Stetson. Obviously you're bringing back James Ash. We brought 2 defensive ends that are coming from Kennesaw State. So, we got ourselves a little bit better. We got ourselves a little bit bigger. But I like where we are at that position. Probably still need to bring in, hopefully, maybe one more guy. Our linebackers are all back. And then you throw in a guy like Brian Norris, who came in, who was a guy that was going to be a big-time player for us last year, but he tore his knee up during training camp. So he's back full go right now. And then we obviously brought in Justice Cross, excuse me, a linebacker from Murray State, who had 70 tackles. So I like where we are at the linebacker position. DBs, we lost Kendall Bowler, we lost Deco Wilson, but then we brought in Dalen Diston, a young man that was at Eastern Carolina. Not Eastern, a guy who was at East Carolina. We brought in Jaden Bradford, a young man from Florida State. Extremely excited about a corner named Caleb McKenzie that was a guy from Miami, but he came from South Dakota. So, our cornerback position. Then you bring in TJ Huggins and Amari Lee, who are guys that have played quite a bit for us over the last couple of years. So, I like where we are at corner, our safeties. You're gonna see some much needed. In my opinion, our length at that position is a heck of a lot better than it was last year. You got a young man, two guys. That one guy came from Charlotte, and another guy that was at App State. We're going to provide some depth. I'm excited about those guys. One guy being, his name is Lattimore. Another guy, Jalik Thomas that came from App State. Those are two guys that we brought in. Excited about them to go on top of Chase Lloyd, who was a veteran player for us. Jordan Cumberbatch, a veteran player for us, and then obviously we brought in another guy named Deion Villers that was at Tennessee State. So, guys, we're still kind of in that middle right now, especially going with spring, seeing how they're going to pan out. But I'm excited where we are numbers-wise. I'm excited where we are, I want to say, depth-wise. But you got some guys still battling for positions. And, I know I threw a bunch of names at you right there, but I'm excited. I'm excited about where those guys are and what we've done throughout the spring.
And as follow-up, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, either an article or another interview you mentioned coming into fourth quarter drills, we had about 90 plus players versus the numbers that you had last spring where you had to go out and go into the portal. Yeah. But my question is this: with VP Suggs, she mentioned on her media tour a couple weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, that I guess the SWAC is opting into the house settlement. Yeah. And with the house settlement, there are roster limits. Mm-hmm. So how does that play in terms of, well, I guess not only how many players that you have, what does that mean does that mean you 105 full scholarships? And the other question, and I know you can't use names, but I did see some social media tweets from some players, some recruitable athletes who said they had received PWO offers from FAMU, and my understanding, my relatively small understanding of the house settlement is that PWOs kind of go by the wayside.
Well,
so
no,
how does okay? Yeah. And that's what I wanted to ask.
I'm sorry. Well, so for us to go back to, when you asked about the 105, that's a strict number. Like that, mm-hmm. Those are things that we have to keep. So we were really, really intentional by, we actually ended up signing about 10 to 15 high school kids. You know what I mean? So we wanted to make sure that we brought some guys in that could come in and be foundation pieces for us. So with that in mind, right? So that, we did that just knowing that when you look at the top of our roster as we go to this year, we're going to have 35 seniors. We're going to have 35 first-year players. And that's guys that have been here, while they were here when Coach Simmons was the head coach, and have been, they stayed with me throughout. There are guys that maybe last year we brought in that only had 2 years when we brought them in, and now this year they have 1. We did bring in a couple guys this year that only had 1 year left, right? So, I didn't want to have to go through next season, right, having to only have 40 to 50 guys on our roster again, like we had last year. So, but that 105 is a hard number, right? So even though we got 96 right now, I in that 96, I'm not counting our high school guys that we signed. I'm not counting them to the number, but once they do get here, those guys have spots. Those guys have spots because we signed them. You know what I mean? So once spring ends, we're going to have to make some tough decisions, right? We're going to make some tough decisions on those 96 guys that we currently have here, right? So, there might be some guys that we brought in the portal that, that we're excited about. And then there might be some guys that are currently on our roster that we may have to make some decisions on. And, obviously that's what the lifting is, and the OTAs and fourth quarter drills and our spring practice is all about. We're not the only one. We're not the only teams that are doing that. We evaluate these guys every single day. But when we start training camp, that 105 it's got to be at 105. I can't do 106. We are going to be at 105.
Okay, so the 105 represents the complete roster limit,
yes,
but not necessarily the number of scholarships funded.
Well, we'll stay at 63. We'll stay at the 63 this year. Hoping to move up, but the SWAC is gonna. The SWAC will stay in that number as well. Nobody has decided to make that huge jump that as of today. Because we were having that conversation today that Colzie can be at 105. Our numbers will be at 63.
Okay.
as far as our scholarship numbers.
And will that 63 be full scholarships or remain equivalent?
Well, we use that 63 number as for scholarships, but in reality, it is equivalencies. Because what you're saying is, if it's 63, you're saying that you have 63 guys that are on full scholarship. We do not have that. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of guys that are on full scholarship, but then you got a couple guys that are 0.2 or a 0.4 or 0.6. So we're allowed to have 63 scholarships as far as the number goes, but we can't go past the 85 on the equivalency mark, which we're close to it, but nowhere near where we think it's going to affect us just yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Coach. And I know there's some burning questions in the chat.
Absolutely. I got some guys that I'm on the chat as well, and I did not speak about special teams, so I'm going to talk about that. I apologize for that. I did not do that on purpose. We ended up signing the number one punter in the SWAC, Alex Davis. He was the number one punter in the SWAC. He's been with us, and he's got a great leg. He punts every morning, and when it hits his foot, it comes off a little different. And then you speak up, and then Gunnar Trout was actually our punter who finished the season. So I like where we are punt wise. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but last year we had actually two long snappers. We had Baylor Payon, right? And then we had Martinez, who was a starter for us 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So with Baylor Payon being in his last year, I actually redshirted Martinez last year. So he's he's basically a returning starter. He just didn't start for us in 24. He was with us during the 23 and 22 seasons. So those, our punter and our long snapper, I'm really, really happy about that. We did bring in two guys for kickoffs, and trying again, guys that we're going to evaluate during the spring. But the biggest thing for me is, can you kick the ball in the end zone when we need to kick off? That's the number one thing for me. We're going to be good enough on offense. We're gonna be able to score points and be able to get ourselves inside the 30-yard line, and we'll have a guy that can kick field goals. But for me, can you help us defensively by allowing our defense to start off their field position on the correct side of the field as opposed to where it's been maybe the last year or so? Happy about where we are kicking wise, but our kickoff guys, we just got to make sure we do some evaluation with them just to see where they are, and wherever they are after the spring, we'll make the proper assessment and hopefully make the decision to help us in that regard.
Good stuff. Kelvin, it looks like you're back. You're looking sharp. Why don't you jump in there and get some questions in for Coach?
Yeah, I had to upgrade my computer, man. I went to a totally different computer, a newer one that I have. But Coach, I missed some of, so forgive me if I'm asking something you already addressed. But I know you have some coaching additions that you've had to your staff, and one, I want you to talk about that if you haven't already, and then two, what's the benefit? How much? I know there's a benefit to that because you didn't have that for certain positions last year going into the spring. So just kind of talk about that scenario.
Well, we have a full staff, right? I mean, from offensive coordinators. So on the offensive side of the football, we have our offensive coordinator, Coach Burris, right? He was promoted from at the end of the year, and and in my opinion, I thought he finished the job and finished strong, and the promotion was warranted. I was able to bring in Kelvin and Marcus and Cedric Williams, two guys that are highly touted, who were both at North Carolina Central. And I know over our course of my 4-year history of being at the HBCU level, right? I think that these are two guys that have done really, really good jobs at their said positions at North Carolina Central. Now, Kelvin Marcus and I, we've gone and seen, him and I, we go way back to 1999. He was one of my first recruits that I brought to FIU. And we've always kept tabs. And, we always discussed that whenever someone was able to get a head coaching opportunity, we were going to bring them on. Well, last year, I didn't necessarily have that liberty, right? But was able to bring him on. And his relationship with Coach Ced enhanced the relationship with Coach Cedric Williams, because, when I talked about getting Kevin's like, man, you gotta try everything you can to get Coach Williams, who's a great offensive line coach. So able to get those two guys there, and made some changes at the wide receiver position, and I thought it was important. I think you bring all these coaches in that got great pedigrees and are great coaches, but I do think there are some times when you got to make sure you bring a guy in that's from the institution. When we were able to bring in Mr. Jeffries, a great young coach, did a great job at Illinois as a grad assistant, did a great job at Western Illinois as the wide receiver coach. And obviously he's a guy that's played here and bleeds orange and green. And I thought that was extremely important to bring a guy like that into this program, right? Especially a program that I know he loves, and he's going to take over a position, a wide receiver room that's got a bunch of personalities. I pray for him every day, that he's gonna stay with us. But he's an important cog in what we're doing offensively, because we all know how these wide receivers are, and y'all see him on the field. But he's done a great job with them, instilling the discipline that I need from that position, and up to this point, he's done a really, really good job. So defensively, we were able to add some pieces, and I was able to. Obviously, I kept Coach Pope, as my defensive coach, and then obviously congratulations to Coach Patterson. Coach Patterson, obviously getting an opportunity to go to the Patriots, but we were able to bring in a defensive coordinator. He has almost finalized everything HR wise, but he's in the building, and he's doing a really, really good job for us up to this point. I do now have 2 D-line coaches. We have an interior guy with Coach Walker, who was with us last year. And then I was able to bring in a defensive end coach by the name of his name is Coach St. John. I'll be able to announce him tomorrow. But he came from McNeese State, and he was at Sanford. So, able to enhance, some pieces. I think the biggest thing for me was, and we were all here last year. Everyone knows how everything kind of went about. And, but I think the biggest thing for me is just being able to bring in my staff. Guys that, be able to make sure that, the trust and everything that I know that I'm going to say to these people is going to be echoed and to the team, and just making sure that what I say in that staff room is going to be held tight and is going to be done the way I want it to be done. So, great coaches, great men, great husbands, great teachers. And, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited about our staff. And I'm definitely excited to be able to announce the rest of our staff, which will be our defensive end coach and our defensive coordinator, because I know everybody wants to know. So that'll happen. That'll happen hopefully by the end of the week. Just want to make sure I get the go ahead to do so.
Okay, Coach. And to follow up on that, I also noticed that with some of the names you mentioned and the guys you bring on, they're extremely experienced. Yes. Successful and experienced.
Yes. When you bring in successful and experienced, I completely forgot my special teams coordinator and my stars coach, Coach Weston. Yeah. He's another guy that him and I go way back to 2007. And again, conversations were whenever I get a chance, right, get an opportunity, I want to make sure I bring him on. And he was at Norfolk State last year. He was their special teams coordinator and their linebacker coach, and he developed an All-American there last year. So you're right. I mean, that was, I wanted to, again, bring in great men, but I wanted to ensure that they had success at their previous stops. That was big for me.
All right. So does that mean that there's some scheme changes coming?
Well, I'll say this. I think offensively, I like what we were doing. I don't make no mistake about it. I want to be able to run the football. I want people to have to try to stuff the box with us and allow our athletes out there to do some work. And I think you saw how our offense would look the last 2 games of the year by doing so. I will say this. I think that, defensively, we were a little bit vanilla, and the biggest thing when I was going through, the interview process was going to be a guy that could coach our linebackers, right? I didn't want to bring, I got all the suggestions that everybody was thinking that I should do, but I think the biggest thing for me was making sure I had a guy that could coach the linebackers. That was important to me, but also had to have FBS coordinator experience, which meant that it was going to allow us to do some different things. Now, hey, when you see us, we're going to play quarters and we're going to play thirds, and that's our base defense. But I also wanted to make sure we added some wrinkles to what we were going to be doing on defense. And when I went through the interview process, those are the things that I asked. Now, I had offensive guys on the call. I had defensive guys on the call. But my main question was, what you watched our film, you saw what we've done. What are some changes that you would suggest, or some things that you would want to bring in? And the guy that I brought in, man, he's a disciplined guy. He's a detailed guy, and I can't give everything out, but you're gonna see us as a group that first and foremost, right, got to stop the run, but there'll be some different packages that we'll be in. There'll be some different blitzes that we're doing. So I'm excited about what we're doing. Even our first 2 days, our install stuff and what we've been doing practice wise, it's been a little bit different, and I'm excited about that.
Sorry, guys, that I'm dominating. I got one more I got to get in, then y'all can have it.
Go ahead,
Coach. What is the spring game going to look like this year? Now that your numbers up and you seem to be healthy, and you got some new pieces that you kind of need to see. So, are you going to go to a more traditional format?
Well, we didn't have the numbers last year to do the game, right? So I'm looking for a sponsor for our draft. We're gonna have our draft. We're gonna split the coaches up. We're gonna do all those things, right? To give the fans that are going to be coming out, the proper game that I feel that they deserve, and that I feel everyone deserves, right? So, we'll have our group, and I'm anxious to see who the number one draft pick is going to be. But yeah, I'll section off the staff and get everybody, in their own quarters, and we'll go to the draft, and we'll have an orange team, we'll have a green team, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Coach.
No problem.
Let me follow up on the spring question, the spring football question, because one of the things that I know has been discussed in college football is programs going away from actually having a spring game. We're doing a spring game. What are your thoughts on that? Was there any thought, consideration, whether it be from you or your other coaches, about doing something different than the traditional 11v11 spring game?
Well, and you look at the big schools, right? A lot of the FBS schools or the Power 4 schools, they're doing that because of possible tampering from other institutions. And I'm not saying that doesn't go on at the HBCU level or the SWAC conference level, but I think for us, the biggest thing for us is we got to be able to evaluate these guys in game-like situations. Last year, did I need to know how Kendall Bowler was going to play in a game, during the spring? Not really, right? Did I need to know how Daniel Richardson was going to possibly react in a game? Not really, right? I mean, but I think we have some key positions that I think that we need to see these guys with as many live shots that we could do. So it's not going to be a long, extended game where possible injuries can happen, but we might throw in some skelly or things like that, but. I just think it's for us to get the proper evaluation. We need to see each other going against each other so we can properly evaluate these guys.
And good to know, Coach. Is the time frame still a 4 o'clock? I think last time you were on, we were talking a 4 o'clock. Is that still, or maybe even later? Is that
I was at the 220 Club today, and then they ain't really with that 1 o'clock start on the Saturday, and either am I. But I know AD Suggs she's gonna make an announcement about some things that we're doing during that spring game weekend. I know softball's got some games, so we want to allow the fans to be able to attend that. But from right now, it looks like it's going to be at 4. Give people the opportunity to be here. I know we're gonna have some events surrounding it, coming at Friday night, and then try to have another event after the game. But I know, Coach, I know AD Suggs is going to have some things that she's going to want to announce. But I think the one thing that I know for certain is that the game is still sectioned off to be at 4 o'clock.
Okay. And also the draft, I had Ashley jumped in. When you talked about looking for a sponsor for the draft, what were you referencing or referring to again? You might be able to catch one if you give a little details right now.
I know. 2 years ago, I know we had people here. We had Vaughn Wilson, recording, and the only thing we were missing was a sponsor. I mean, I don't know. Hey, just have a sponsor. I think Vaughn will probably live stream the thing. I'll be making the announcements, and I don't know. Be 2 hours of somebody who wants to be a part of the draft.
Okay.
There it is. FAMU Spring Football Draft presented by. There you go.
Whoever.
Right, so see,
it don't have to be one. I'll take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There you go. There you go. Let me ask one other question here before we wrap up our time with you. And is there any changes happening or that are being discussed as it relates to the sidelines, as it relates to home and away on the sidelines? I got a question in the chat regarding something related to that. Has there been any talk of changing sides?
Well, I think a lot of it just stems from avoiding a lot of that cross-section stuff at halftime. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't think it necessarily has to just do with us. We obviously we fell victim to it last year, and there was other melees throughout the year where if avoidance could be the best thing, right? And at halftime, we could sit up here and say that our guys aren't going to say anything, and then the other side's not going to say anything. But the blood's boiling at half, and people are saying some of the things that they say. But I think it's just the conversation has not come from us. It's just a conversation from the conference about trying to be mindful of. We're saying we don't want them to fight. We're saying we don't want people to say anything. But then at halftime, we're crossing, and then at the end of a game, right? Regardless of what happened at the end of a game, we still have to do what we still have to cross. So I like the side that we're on, but if it's gonna help us, have a better experience for our fans or whatever the case may be, we're gonna play at 6:00. So the whole sun being in the way, our games are at night, so that shouldn't necessarily be a problem. But there is something to our student section being behind that visiting team. So I don't judge me. I don't take that for granted, And then when our stadium's rocking and we're making plays up and down the field, and you see that side behind them, well, I see it. It is one of the biggest home field advantages in the country. But just letting you know that it has been talked about, but it hasn't been from us. It's been more so from the conference.
All right, good to know. Well, once you're off, we will speculate on who it is that's complaining after you're off, Coach. Don't worry about it. We'll speculate like mad as to who it is.
Hey, I shouldn't say complain. I should just say suggesting. How's that?
Concern.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. Sensitive, man. I'm telling you, man. Folks soft and sensitive these days.
Nah, hey, it's okay. It's
okay.
They want us to win. That's all it is.
I know. Marcus, Kelvin, you got any final questions here for Coach, or Coach maybe give you a chance to get on the last word with something here?
I don't have anything. I'll let Coach kind of close it up, wrap it up with whatever he got.
Well, I say this, I was talking to 220 Club today, and people are, everybody wants to know how good we're going to be, and I'll say this. I think that we're going to be a good football team. I'm excited. I'm excited about our receiving play. I'm excited about our running backs. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we're a finished product yet, but I don't know if we're going to be able to make that decision until we're done with spring practice. I love the fact of how close we are. Even our guys that did come into the portal from January, we're able to see them in the spring as opposed to at the time, right, bringing guys in the middle of the summer and not necessarily properly being able to gauge them or see how they're going to be able to handle some of the things that we're putting them through during the spring. We got 35 seniors, right? We got 35 seniors, so we're going to be a very, very senior-oriented bunch. And I like the way our leaders are leading right now. We're taking this approach of we know we're going to be a good team, but we got to make sure we take care of the small things to ensure that we can be a great team. And those are some of the things that we all know might have fell to the wayside a little bit this past fall. And I took it personal for myself to make sure that that football team, that some of the things that you saw from our football team last year, they won't happen this year. That won't happen. So, but I like the way our seniors are working. I like the way our portal guys are working. I like the way our young guys are working. I love how our staff is meshing. We're putting some good things together. We're putting some really, really good deposits in every single day from our staff, from our players, and just the supporters that we have. Just continue doing what you're doing because you guys are going to be really, really happy with the product that we have. And you know, we got a great schedule, got a great home schedule. You know, we got what we wanted as far as being able to open up the season in the place that we all know where we should be. Our home schedule is it's going to be really, really good. It's going to be really, really tough. We got some good football team coming in to brag. And obviously, you know, our schedule does shift as opposed to, you know, we're going to play Pine Bluff. So we're not necessarily playing some of the teams that we may have been playing over the last couple of years. So, you know, got a great schedule. I'm excited for it. But to be honest with you, we got to make sure we take care of March 20th tomorrow. We got to make sure we have a good day tomorrow so we can continue building what we're building to make sure we're ready to go once August 30th hits when we open up in Miami.
Did we mention Pro Day at all?
No, not yet. I mean, I can.
No, if you want to get a word in there. We know how important. We're going to have 15 scouts here tomorrow. 15 scouts going to be here tomorrow to take a look at our 2024 seniors. You know, we've, a lot of the scouts are asked, they want to know about Daniel Richardson. They want to know about Kendall Bowler. They want to know about Jalen Goss. They want to know about Jamar Gassett. You know, they want to know about Kelvin Dean. So, you know, a lot of guys that, put the time in, you know, and they've all come back and done some really, really good things in the offseason. They look good. I'm mad at them. They look better now than they did, you know, during the fall. I want to know what the hell they did. But I'm excited for them. And you know, it'll be a big deal for them today. It'll be at 2:00. We got some items for them, and you know, when you're at the level that we're at, I think it's important to credit the guys in the past, right? The Isaiah Lands, the Marquise Bells, the Terrell Jennings, the Smith, my man Smith. You know, those guys allowed these scouts to understand that you can come from FAMU and play professional football. Yep. So those are things that I'm excited about, and you know, we're gonna have one or two guys get picked up based on what they do tomorrow, and I'm happy for them. And then on Friday we have our junior day, so those same scouts are gonna stick around, you know, because you got about 4 or 5 guys that are on our team this year. I mean, that are gonna be on our team this year, that are gonna continue the opportunity to go to the NFL. So I think we got one guy that, in my opinion, that has the potential to get drafted. Which is always a great thing, you know. But you know how it is sometimes here. I just want our guys to get a fair opportunity. I want our guys to get a fair opportunity because we've shown with the guys in the past that we have guys that can play at the next level, and they can do great things at the next level. So, you know, I'm excited for them tomorrow. I hugged their neck. I saw them all today. You know, they're already here, and I'm excited for them. I can't wait to see them tomorrow. Excuse me. Sounds good. All right. Well, hey, Coach, again, thank you for your time. We will look forward to that draft, the 2025 FAMU football spring draft, sponsored by someone. We'll see. On now. Come on. I'll put it there.
To be determined.
To be determined, right? And of course, the spring game, April 12th, 4:00 right now, 4:00. Yes, April 12th. The date will not change, though.
Nope. The date, and I don't think the time will change either, because I know we're trying to do some events afterwards. So, gotcha. But I do think it's best to let Miss Angela
for sure.
make the proper announcement. But
for sure.
But as always, it's always great to see you three, man.
Okay, Coach. Yes, Coach, who should they get in contact with if someone wants to sponsor?
I'll send you Jennifer, our director of operations. I'll send you a text. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Perfect. Hey guys, great to see you guys, man. And I appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate you. Be well.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
All right. Good stuff. Our head ball coach, Coach James Colzie III. Let's take a quick break because Liv is in the waiting room. We don't want to keep Liv waiting. So hang tight. Get your basketball questions in the chat room. I hope we got all the football questions answered. Thank you guys in the chat. Good job. Now let's get those basketball questions in, because I know you guys got a lot of questions for Liv. Women's basketball, men's basketball, you know, Liv holds no bars. She's not holding anything back. You know, she keeps it real when she comes on to O&G. So bring it. Here we go. We'll take a quick break and be back with Liv and Tilla right here on the other side. You're watching the O&G StrikeZone right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeaversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the O&G StrikeZone. Bryan, Marcus, Kelvin, and look who's joining us. It's our Liv. Live for Hoops. Live for Hoops or Die Lonely, none other than Olivia Antilla, FAMU superstar, alum, and a Hall of Famer. I think this is the first time, Liv, we had a chance to say congratulations to you formally on being a Hall of Famer. The Hall of Famer, Liv Antilla, joining the show. Liv, congrats.
Thank you.
Hold on, you posted, I remember you posted a stat on some of the one of the games, I think it was one of the games that you had while you were at your JUCO. What were those numbers again? Because it was like, me like,
oh, it was my big game. It was 57 points that game. I went 21 for 23 from the field and 7 for 7 from 3. So, and that's still the school record for highest scoring game as of now, but it stood for now over 10 years. So hopefully it stands forever.
What is that in the moment like when you're in a zone like that? What is that feeling like?
I literally didn't even remember the game. After, this is something I vividly remember. After the game, my coach was like, Liv, guess how many points you had? Because the school didn't have the like player stats scoreboard. It was just the score. I was like, I don't know, like 20, like whatever. Because at the time I was averaging like around 27 points. And he was like, no. And I was like, 30. He was like, no. And I was like, I have no idea. And he was like, you had 57 points. And I was like, what? But then it was just crazy because all the fans of the other team kept coming up to me and saying how like that was the best game they've ever seen, and like that was just, it was really weird because I literally didn't remember making a shot the whole game, so it was just like, it was crazy.
Wow, awesome stuff. All right, so Liv, the FAMU basketball season, women and men, are over. Obviously, the tournament season, you were at the MEAC. So before we get into the men and the women, I just, you were over at the MEAC, we were over at the SWAC. Obviously you represented, because, you did your work in the MEAC era. What was it like, the experience of being there for the MEAC and obviously You've heard all of the chatter post MEAC tournament. Why don't you give us your thoughts, if you before we get into talking about FAMU basketball, your thoughts on that?
I've agreed with a lot of the sentiments that I've seen about, not when it comes to, because I have seen people being like, oh, it's an unfair home advantage for Norfolk State. I don't believe in that, because although they've been there at the Scope Arena since like 2013. So if it was really that way, they would have way more championships than they do. I don't like it. One, because it's freezing cold in there. Like, it's freezing cold, and the floors are actually like, they're playing on ice. So the floors were wet. There was a lot of moisture. I tweeted it like the granddaddies was out. It's definitely a senior citizen type of event. So, I mean, if that's the vibe that they're going for, then I mean, you're hitting it right on the head of having that demographic. But I genuinely feel like if they want to bring in a younger audience, because the product is there. If you paid attention, like every single men's game but one, and that was when South Carolina State whooped NC Central, and that was from the jump. Every single game was good and came down to the wire. Even the 1 versus 8 and the 2 versus 7, like all the games had you on the edge of your seat, intently watching. And the women, although like obviously Norfolk won, like in very well fashion, and Howard did in 2 of their games as well. All the other matchups were competitive. Product is there, but how we put the product in is going to it has to look nicer. It has to represent how that you care about basketball, and this is the direction you want to go. And it's not old like, listen, people were in there. There was a lady with a blanket and earmuffs on. Like, I'm not joking when I say it was that cold, because they have the ice frozen. It just seems very, obviously, I don't know the logistics. I saw when it went up for when they renewed the contract, they never put it up to bid for another city, which I thought was, kind of interesting. Like, why would you not give cities the opportunity to bid and, want to represent the program? So, I just think they can do better especially when the product is so good, especially even with the women's side this year. They had 3 teams who were actively ranked this season. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
That's all right. We appreciate you doing double duty. We appreciate you, man. Go ahead, Kelvin. Get in there with your questions here.
Well, you never lack opinions when it comes to basketball, right? Which I personally love. So, what is your thoughts on just the HBCU? Before we get to fam, just the top teams in the HBCU basketball. What's your thought on what you saw, like in the MEAC and in SWAC?
I'll start with men. I was really, surprised this year. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought South Carolina State, they really emerged as a really good team. It was really that game versus Georgia at Georgia when they had Georgia on the ropes. They had the lead at halftime. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, what is happening? And so that really turned people onto them. Coach Martin has been building that program. This is his 3rd year, and he's really put in and been able to keep players. It's just, the play is becoming, it's always been there, but I feel like with the type of recruits coaches are able to get now, and this is kind of like, people hate the portal, but you have to love the portal too, because it really is becoming an equalizer of where people can there. I really apologize. They're able to get high major recruits, regardless if kids want to use it as a JUCO or not. They're coming, they're competing, and even for a long time, like Bethune was being very
bring him on the show. Bring him on the show, Liz.
Of course, he hasn't been like this until I'm on the camera. But
bring him on.
Southern was very successful. So I think they're being able to get recruits regardless if players want to use it as a quote unquote JUCO or not. It's making people really put HBCUs on the map when they're successful and out of conference. And I think that's really the next huge jump. A lot of the MEAC teams have more of a liberty of not playing a whole schedule full of money games. And that's the difference. I think a huge difference between the MEAC and the SWAC. A lot of the SWAC teams, they are forced to play a full out of conference schedule full of money games. And the MEAC teams, they oftentimes have a lot more liberty to play more mid-major teams and, be more competitive. So at the end of the day, that is what makes a team. That's why the SWAC is always the play-in game, because the net ranking, which I hate, and I've actively said I've hated the net ranking because it doesn't pull in conditions or understanding or anything like that. It just is what it is, but that's why we get the 16 seed when we have a Mississippi Valley who loses every single game by 30, 40, 50 plus. We have a UAPB who's not competitive during out of conference schedule, but I think the top teams really emerged themselves this season. Southern got a lot of really good out of conference wins. Norfolk, all these good coaches are staying, they're building their programs, and that's just what we want to see is longevity as best as you can. What are you going to do to keep your players here? What are you going to do to, sustain your program so you can get those out of conference wins? Then when it comes to women, obviously we have the best team in all of HBCU basketball, men or women, it doesn't even matter. Number 4 in the mid-major top 25. Number 4. I don't know the last time, that's the highest they've ever had in school history. So shout out to Norfolk State. But, handling business, he was able to get a big-time recruit in Diamond Johnson, and she's been, very she's been online telling other P4s to transfer to HBCUs and make that shift. And so I'm hoping if they beat Maryland in the first round, a lot more P4s will be open to the opportunity when it comes to women's basketball. But, we had A&M who coached Thornton at her first year at Alabama. A&M won over 20 games. We had North Carolina A&T who won the CAA, regardless if they lost the tournament. They were so successful for the season, and Coach Terrell, who's been there since I played at FAM, he coached against me. He, for the first time ever, won Coach of the Year, and it was in a PWI conference. And so I think a lot of programs are moving in the right direction, and it's because more players want the experience of playing at an HBCU.
Hey, that ranking for Norfolk State, that's higher than any HBCU of recent memory. Women's team, any team. Right? Any team. I want to make sure we understand that, right?
And that's why I really try and push people to understand. That's why it's so important we consistently talk about our teams on online platforms, because if you all those coaches who are on the voting panel, they don't watch HBCU basketball. It's not a requirement to be up and knowing about keeping up with the teams. And so it's important that we promote our own actively. And so that when coaches are scrolling online, they're seeing that. And to be honest, whether it's football, basketball, softball, bowling, baseball, any of the sports, that's why it's so crucial and important for us to use our online presence to publicize our own teams. Because if we don't, and we're not making these voting panels, these voting coaches, these committees notice our teams, they'll keep just, pushing them in the back of their mind because they've gotten away with that for so long.
That's a good point, because that's why sometimes I know people might be critical when they see you get after schools about their social media, but what she just told you is why she does that. So it's not like you just coming after people, but it's really more of a, hey, let's step up our game because it all matters.
And side note, just because I feel like I was public enemy number 1 on Sunday, I just want to say, after they won that game, if you go back to all the NCAA officials and accounts and people who are have hundreds of thousands of millions of followers, please look at the account they were tagging, because It was not Bama State sports. And I'm not being shady no matter what people say. I really do this because I care and I understand the landscape of college basketball and what recruits and people do. They were all tagging Bama State men's basketball. And that was my whole point. When people go and click the page and they see the last post is from 2023 when CJ Hines committed to the school, they're like, so, they don't keep up with their social media. They're not going to go searching around and trying to find other information. This is what is tagged by all of these other people. And the last information is from, I believe, May of 2023. That's why it's so important. We need individualized pages. If I'm a recruit, I'm a basketball recruit. I don't want to see softball stuff. I don't care who the bowling coach is. I don't care about anything regarding football. I'm a women's basketball player. I want to know how your women's team is doing. And I don't want to have to scroll forever to try and find when, their last posting was. That's why it's important to have individualized pages and a sports page for the sports lovers who care all about that. But the reality is they don't. All these people, they're going to tag the men's basketball account, the women's basketball account, because that's who's playing. It's not Bama State sports who's playing. It's Alabama State's men's basketball team that's playing.
Ding. Beautiful stuff, Liv. Beautiful stuff. Kelvin, you want to finish up with any other questions, or you want to toss it over to Marcus?
Let Marcus get in.
Jump in there, Marcus. Let's go.
Hey, Liv. Thanks for coming back on the show. Tell us in general, if you were to, to encapsulate the season of HBCU basketball in terms of your expectations and how things ended up. Start there, but then also I want to get your perspective on the SWAC tournament.
She might have froze. Yeah,
I think we froze.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe hopefully she heard the question and
nope.
She might be able to jump back.
I'm gonna come back to Liv in a second. Once I see her kind of moving around, she might have froze there in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But while we wait on Liv to rejoin us, that's a great comment that she had. And just remember, I know she's tight on time here, so we're gonna have to kind of get our maybe another 5 minutes here with her, because I know she's got to take care of the little one there.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good commentary, because we see on non-sports stuff how influential just posting whatever can influence masses. So if we want to promote our programs and we have individual accounts,
here's the challenge. Let me say, I'm gonna also add to this, and I know I speak for even our own programs at FAMU. Sometimes it's hard because of there may be one particular platform, for example, Instagram, that you might catch updates on, but a lot of times the X Instagram account doesn't get updated at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so I know if you've been following our X account, I'm making a point to be very intentional after something gets posted on IG to also post it on X. But it is a challenge now for our limited staff, limited resources, school staffing, the challenges. All right, I think we got Liv back. Liv, we got you. All right.
I'm sorry. Technical issues.
It's all good. We understand.
I'm the last one that can say anything because
it's one of those days. Liv.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead, Marcus, with your question there. I think we got Liv here.
I was going to ask Liv, once again, thank you for coming on the show. In terms of your expectations coming into the season and how things ended up across the HBCU diaspora, but also specifically for the SWAC, how were things before the season in terms of who you thought was going to make noise and how things ended up?
When it comes to the SWAC, I think everyone thought that, Grambling was going to really be the front runner. And what's funny, I think everyone's like, oh my gosh, it was such a bad season for them. And she still had a winning season. So, kudos to Coach Simmons, because that's pretty impressive when people look at above 500 season as a horrible season for you. And then of course I had Alabama A&M finishing at the top, and the team that probably surprised everyone the most, including me, I've said that, was Texas Southern. I mean, they made a massive jump. And I think although Coach Funches and Southern, They won the regular season. They won the tournament. Coach Skeet definitely had, reasons for being coach of the year. They didn't even make the tournament. I think they finished like 10th or 11th last year, because I know they lost to Valley once. So the jump that she made in year 3 was massive. And so I think she shocked everybody. In regards to, everyone else, I was kind of just like, oh, I didn't really know what to expect with a lot of these teams. Obviously, shout out to Valley. They had a coaching change before conference play started, and it ended up being very successful for them, for the assistant coach to become the head coach. And, they made the playoffs, which good for them. He really had them rolling and confident and playing, a really good game for them. So, I mean, besides that, I think everything else in the middle was kind of like, oh, they could end up here, they could end up there. So everything else was kind of just like, oh, we'll see what happens come end of season with players, with coaches. And as we already saw, Coach Sandy Pugh retired. So PV, which will be a hot spot for coaches to apply. I'm sure it's just based on where it is, their basketball it's so nice. So many applicants are going to be applying for it. And then obviously in the MEAC, there was just no surprises there, to be honest. I would say Coach Willis at UMES did a great job finishing 3rd. A lot of people weren't talking about it because of just how good Norfolk State was. But UMES ended up finishing 3rd in her very first year there, in her first job as a head coach. And so shout out to Coach Willis as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Liv, let's talk about your you Lady Rattlers first.
Bruh.
Yeah. Wait a minute, what?
It keeps rolling. I'm like, I never have technical issues. This is crazy.
Year two under Coach Gordon. Season finishes 9-20, 6-12 in conference play. And I just was looking it up because I was charting it all season. 12 of those conference losses, 8 of them by single digits. And if you add in the Bethune game, which ended in overtime, that would be 9 of the 12. And of the 8 losses, probably more than half of those were 1 or 2 possessions. It was a new year, minus the player of the year and Ariana Grizzle. New team this year. How do you assess what we saw in year 2 under Coach Gordon? Are you on? You got you on mute. Wait, oh, we lost her. Okay, she's gonna try to come back again. All right, so we got Liv coming in here just a second. We'll try to assess year 2 under Coach Gordon, and then we'll get to asking her thoughts on the men's team as well coming up. And I know, like I said, we appreciate Liv and her time. Let's see. Okay, I think we got her now.
Oh,
we got you now?
I feel like Kelvin right now.
That's a good one. Did you catch my question there, Liv?
I heard it cut off after Bethune.
Just mentioning the fact that of the 12 conference losses, 8 of them technically were single-digit losses. If you add in the Bethune overtime loss, then that would have been a 9th, you could say. What's your assessment on this team? I mean, I'm going to get out of the way. What's your assessment of what we saw in year 2 under Coach Gordon?
I'm trying. What? I'm just like, I'm not impressed. I think an issue that I was very vocal about last year, finding a post player that was not found. And no one believed me when they posted the post player they got, and I was like, look at where you have to look at stats, look at the school she played at, look at the minutes she had. It was just very lackluster. I did like Gay. Obviously, McEvans was very successful, but not having an active post player really hurt them. I think that in a lot of the games, the way they lost was more of a telling statement than the fact that they lost. because in multiple games, they had the lead, got chased down, then they lost. To me, that's an issue. Because it didn't just happen once. It happened multiple times throughout the season. And I think that's why it was just kind of a lackluster and a very much so a letdown of being like, one time, okay, 2 times, 3 times, okay, this got out of hand. And so I'm interested to see who leaves the team or is, asked to leave, because that's the reality of the portal. I know a lot of people like to point at players and be like, oh, they're leaving. Players are asked to leave all the time. We don't know the ins and outs of these conversations. And so that's the reality. Players are asked to leave and players are told, like, say they want to leave. I think there needs to be a complete roster turnover. And it needs to start with a good post player. They just, for 2 years in a row, they have not had a post player who can give quality minutes on both ends of the floor. And the reality is Sydney Hendricks is not a 5. They play her at a 5 because she can be physical. But when you're getting down to the end of games and the nitty gritty, she's an undersized post player. And she's very I love Hendricks. I love her game, but she's playing out of position because that's where she's being told to play right now due to the bench roster. What is her last name? Alexander. She's more of a slasher. I personally wouldn't even play her at the 4. She's more of a slashing type of player. And oftentimes when she was out there, she was getting, and obviously she's a freshman. She'll put some, they'll get her in the weight room if she's still here. She was getting, kind of pushed around like freshmen do. But I think that they need to be very intentional on getting a post player. I just feel like that would have made a huge difference. This season, their guards are constantly having to work overtime to generate these points. And they really have no consistency on the inside. And so I'm hoping that, because year 1, she finished 7th place. Year 2, she finished 8th place. Obviously, you're losing by single digits. Other teams went and got, players out the portal. Surprising teams showed up, but that's just the name of the game. And I think losing to Valley in the first round really shocked me. Obviously, Valley had a great season, so shout out to them. But to me, I was in the twilight zone. I was watching it on the airplane. I was like, what is happening right now?
But that's who they've been all year, though. That's the thing. That's who they were all season down the stretch. So even though I was disappointed, I wasn't entirely surprised. I mean, obviously, I was wishing for the best, but
yeah. So, I mean, I was hoping I think I had them in my preseason at 5. I think I had them at 5 or 6. It was one of the two. You always hope for more competitive. And so, I hope Coach Gordon goes and, gets the type of players that will fit her system. I will be very honest when I'm saying I don't know, who this team is. When you look at who teams are so for instance, when I look at Coach Curry team, I know how they play. I know their culture is putting up threes and playing that up and down game. When I look at Grambling women's basketball, I know they're going to play physical and full court press you. When I'm looking at, Bethune, I know they're going to rebound the crap out of the ball. I'm outside of having successful scoring guards. I'm kind of who is this team? What is the words I'm looking for? What is your
identity?
Yes. What is your identity as a team? Because both years it's been to be honest, Sabu really didn't show up every single game. It was very hit or miss. So it's outside of the one scoring guard, what else is there right now? What else are we building into this? So that is who you are. That's when players come in. It's you're doing this or you're leaving. It's very that simple.
So I'm intrigued to see what happens in year 3. Everyone has injuries, so I hate when people say that because one, I'm very honest. I've never so one of the injuries everyone's talking about is Delancey. One, I've been very open that I thought when she wasn't injured, they played better with her off the floor because she got into these mindsets. It happened versus Howard. And then they had the little point guard, Purifoy, who got injured, which would have moved McEvans to the 2 and Sabu to the 3. But in retrospect, this is the team you recruited. If you're not recruiting depth, then that's what you have. Injuries happen in basketball a lot. And a lot of teams, especially in the SWAC, had so many injuries. And I know it's because of the grueling out of conference season. But this is what you recruit. So at the end of the day, if you're not recruiting depth at your point guard, at your wings, at your post, then that's you setting yourself up. I just have minimal excuses because I've seen other teams like it's next man up mentality, next man up. So I'm eager to see what happens in the off season. There was a player who she didn't play this year, but she played last year. She entered the portal. So I'm watching that portal tracker for everyone, seeing like who's going, who's coming, and so I think there's big opportunities on the table of now what are we going to do. This is she was on a 3-year contract if I'm not mistaken, and so this 3rd season would be the end of that contract.
Any other women's basketball related questions, Marcus or Kelvin, before we jump over to the men's side real quick?
Nope.
Oh my gosh, I made this like you guys are so depressed at what I said.
No. Hey, you always you always have an opinion, and you substantiate it with facts. So I have nothing to say.
I guess I don't know. I wasn't looking for you to change my mind about anything, although you kind of said what I thought you were going to say. All right, to the men's side. So the men, historic first season for Coach Crary, most wins since 2008. We won our first SWAC tournament game for any program, men or women. So a lot of positives. We had the player of the year, had the newcomer of the year. What's your vow? What's your thoughts on the men's season?
For year 1, I thought he did great. Understanding circumstances when he came, when he was on campus, he's been very he had no official visits. He had no NIL. So he was really working off of building relationships. So if that's what he could do in year 1 off of just building relationships and being competitive in the SWAC, and a lot of those games, they were I know he wishes he had some of those games back. And it didn't help that, Sterling was in.
Uh-oh, she got sniped right there. She was about to say it. Yeah, right as Sterling got hurt there at the end of the season.
Yeah,
it's tough. So
when I know Mark's going to get in recruiting stuff when we finish this segment, but yeah, we got to touch some of the transfer portal stuff as well as the coaching question with men's basketball.
All right, let's see. Hold on. Let's see. We got Liv. Are you there? Nope, not yet. I think she's still trying to get her audio situation. I know it's a little past the time that she was supposed to be on with us, so I definitely appreciate. I wanted to give her a chance to get her thoughts in here on the men's program before we go to just us and close out the show. What, Kelvin? While we're waiting on Liv to pop in, go ahead and if you want to comment or what's your any comment. I know a lot of you guys are asking about the contract issue.
So the only thing I can say is that FAMU has done everything that FAMU needs to do. Coaches out recruiting for FAMU.
Yes, it is.
You haven't heard anything opposite or different, and until we do, we're gonna we're happy with the job he's done in year one, given the challenges, and we'll just proceed that way. All right,
It'll work itself out. It'll settle itself out.
On this understanding, these next 2 weeks will probably be critical because you got some coaches moving within the SWAC, right? So Alcorn's coaches slated to go to Chicago State, and there may be one or two other SWAC programs that are we're getting rid of their coaches, and then
or contracts are ending.
Yep. There's some things such as we don't know what A&T or some of those schools in the MEAC may or may not do. So, all I say is that as of right now, we know that coach is committed to FAMU and he's recruiting on behalf of FAMU, and I feel pretty comfortable in saying that. I mean, if somebody tries to come in and offer, they'll probably have to pay FAMU. So that's all we can ask for.
Yeah, I'll double down on that. Yeah, I mean, coach is very excited about what he's out recruiting right now. He feels very confident. I've had some conversations with him. He's out recruiting for FAMU. Feels really excited. And I'll say this: the FAMU brand is such a strong brand, right? I mean, let's take, for example, what happened in the SWAC championship. You had a coach, Mo Williams, who left Alabama State to go home to Jackson State. The Jackson State brand is a stronger brand than Alabama State, right? But it opened up the door for Coach Tony Madlock, who is from where? The Alabama area. And so it's all pieces of the puzzle. It all fits. But I'll just say, we have a strong brand. And I think no matter what other schools are doing and what other schools may be tempting, there's a lot of conversations that are happening at the conference tournament. Okay. So understand that's the one good thing about the SWAC tournament, right? The SWAC tournament brings everybody together. It brings the coaches, it brings the ADs, administrators. And so all of those moving parts are all in one place together. And so I think this is the one thing I will say for FAMU and our basketball program. Take note of the 4 teams that were in the semifinal of the men's tournament. 3 of those 4 have some of the most active and biggest NIL budgets for their basketball program. Some of them are doing revenue sharing with their guarantee games. So for FAMU to be competitive, we're going to have to match and be able to equal what Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman, and who was the other one? Alabama State. That was 3 of the 4. Grambling. I mean, all of those teams are active and strong with their NIL or some sort of incentive that helps their program, their men's basketball program, right? FAMU is going to have to be able to be competitive in the same space because as we've seen, we had the player of the year hit the portal. Not surprised, right? Who were the other guys? We had some other guys hit the portal.
They're reserves. Mo Schramm.
Reserves.
Yeah, Mo Schramm, who came in under actually I think his name is Alex Andrews. That was just popped up on Twitter. Yeah. But both of them were reserves. So
but like Marcus, but like you have said, because of the nature of college basketball, look at the portal, guys. I mean, I've been retweeting stuff daily.
Everybody knows the players. Everybody.
But what it is, it's guys who, and Coach has said this, nobody on this roster was averaging over 10 a game at the Division I level. And what do you see? The guy who's SWAC Player of the Year. That's a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Milton Matthews, I mean, it's going to take some. I know he loves Coach. I know he loves FAMU, but it's gonna take something to keep him.
Yeah,
Because
the same with Rod Coffey. Because
Same
Rod
with-
Coffey
but
came in last year under McCullum. But
Yeah.
even if you look at his, I guess I would call it a breakout performance.
that wasn't
in
breakout
our loss.
performance. It was like a career night for him.
Yeah, in our loss versus Jackson State, I mean, it's like somebody could see the potential, and he did have some pretty good accolades coming out of high school, and then he diverted to, I believe it came out of JUCO. I have to look back at his profile, but I mean, he's got some chops. So, yeah, we are going to have to pony up to keep players, and it's not just in basketball, but this is probably the most recent example. But in terms of players that are other Olympic sports who are showing very well.
So, suggestion, and to that point, whether it be a combination of one or the other, some ideas. Put a fee on the basketball tickets that goes specifically to NIL, and or allow them to keep some of the guaranteed money that go to NIL. And don't forget now, the settlement is pretty much official, and I think it goes into effect with NCAA and the settlement money, and FAMU and the SWAC has opted into that. It goes into effect in May, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the new lay of the land, and we absolutely have to have a business model that keeps us, makes us competitive, first of all, then sustains that success for the program.
Mm-hmm. And Kelvin, I wanted to ask, just because I'm still learning and trying to get clarity. Now, I believe was basketball always a head count sport versus equivalent?
Yes.
So I don't think in terms of the roster limit, it doesn't really impact basketball as much, with the exception you can't have walk-ons, but so you can't have like 17 players, but 15 scholarships and 2 walk-ons who are academic people. So you can have 15 hard count,
right?
No more than 15, but there was always 15 scholarships available, up to 15 scholarships available for basketball.
No, I think basketball was scholarship. I thought was 12 or 13. I'm not sure on that, but I think it was a little less.
Okay, I misunderstood that. All right.
All right, we got Liv back. Liv, you made it back. God bless you tonight, Liv. We appreciate you.
You guys know I never have these type of problems. I don't know what's happening tonight. It must be, I don't know. It's a full moon or something.
One of those nights. We understand. Trust me.
Kelvin's
had it. I've had it. We've all had it. I don't know if you caught any of the conversation we were having regarding the men's. Anything you want to add there, or just your comments regarding the season? I know you had started talking about the season, but just in general about the men's program, FAMU men's season.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did great in year one. That's what you want to see for a first-year coach, to come in and make an immediate impact, and that's what he did. I really hope that the FAMU athletic department decides whether they want to take men's basketball serious and make the true investment into that after seeing, the type of season that was had, because, it costs to keep people, especially people who are now being sought after by a lot of other schools who are coming with more than what, the salary he had this year. And I think both parties just need to come together and, make a decision that fits both of their needs. But it would be it would honestly be very sad to me if, oh my gosh, it would be sad to me if FAMU decided to not, make the investment in men's basketball and start over again, because that's, seeing the success and that could happen, you have to make that investment. And although, I love women's basketball, I'm a big proponent. We know that as of right now, for a lot of schools, men's basketball and football are the ones that bring in the money. That's not true for every school, but for a lot of schools, especially like mid-majors and other schools. But, I really hope that they see the possibilities of where the men's basketball program could go and see the value in Coach Crary. And because, listen, players want to come here. They want to be playing in a FAMU jersey next season. And so we don't want to wait till the last minute to make that coaching change and have someone start over super late. And so I really hope that they take the opportunity to really see what he did in year one, make that true investment, and allow him to really, make this program his own and build it to the level that we know it can be.
All right, Liv, we appreciate you tonight. Thanks for everything. I know it's been a challenging night, but you're a soldier, you're a trooper. Thank you. I know right now we saw some updates. Southern's women are up at the half.
BTA, they're up by 22 points. Yeah, sent them all the way to Cali to play a California team, thinking they was gonna let them slip up. And I tweeted earlier after I did my little March Madness post. I said Southern has the upper hand because of the way they play defense. And anyone who's followed Southern women's basketball, all of their scores are low. They're low scoring games because of the way they play defense. And that's why I'm so happy. But now I'm like, damn, the NCAA is going to stop putting HBCUs in the first 4 games because they don't want to pay them. They're going to start putting them in just a straight 16 seed and being like, ooh, too bad. Go play that number 1 seed. But I'm so happy for Southern. I hope they finish this game out there. I believe what I saw, this will be the first WAC women's basketball NCAA win in history, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
So
I think you're on the side.
Shout out to them Jags and Coach Funches putting on for HBCUs, because come this time it's all of us versus everybody. And so shout out to them. Make sure you guys and also before you guys kick me off, there's 5 games tomorrow.
Kick me off. We would never kick you off.
There's 5 games tomorrow. It's fine. There's 5 games tomorrow. Zula's women's basketball is playing in this. Zula's women's basketball is playing in the round of 16 tomorrow. You can watch on Urban Edge Network. Langston women's basketball are playing in the round of 16. You can watch on Urban Edge Network. Langston men are playing in the round of 16 on Urban Edge Network. North Carolina A&T, they tip off in the WBIT tomorrow on ESPN Plus. And Texas Southern hosts their first game in the WNIT. And Alabama State plays Auburn. So there's 6 opportunities for us to really put on and, make some noise as HBCUs. A lot of times people forget about our NAIA teams, but to have 2 women's teams in the round of 16, and Coach Vincent is doing it in year 1 as a women's basketball coach. He just switched from the men, is major. So make sure you're finding an opportunity to support these teams and, tune in. Because a lot of the opportunities are free to watch them, especially when it comes to NAIA, and you can really see some really great quality basketball. And also there's a SWAC player who is on that Langston women's basketball team. She played at Jackson State last year. And that wasn't like shade. I'm just saying there's connections between the two. She won Defensive Player of the Year in the SAC conference this year. So, we want to get those like Edwin said, get the viewing rating up and, boast about our teams as much. And I also saw, shout out to the FAMU Dayton chapter who made those goodie bags for the Alabama State men, because this is what it's about. We can bicker with each other all we want and go toe to toe, but when it's us, it's literally HBCUs versus everybody. So just make sure you're watching and tuning in, and there will be a lot of coaching changes coming this week, next week. So be ready for the entertainment.
A quick question for you. And I think I saw
Yes.
something about Coach Jones from Norfolk State. What do you think about Norfolk getting a 16 seed on the men's side?
Oh, I thought that was straight disrespect because, and I'm going to come with facts because that's what I come with. 1, they beat High Point on High Point's floor, and High Point was a 13 seed. That's 1. 2, and this is no disrespect to Alabama State, but they beat Alabama State by 20 points, basically. It was like 17, so I'm going to round it up to 20 because that's what we do in basketball. Like, you got beat by 20. Then when you look at their out-of-conference schedule, they were very competitive amongst mid-major teams. I think I didn't have them at a 16. I had them at least at a 15, maybe even cracking a 14. But that's just, that's unfortunately their reality. I think it was crazy that they gave them, again, I don't understand how High Point can get a 13 seed when a 16 seed beat them. In my mind, I'm like, damn, that moves them up, excuse my language, at least one. Like, what are we doing here? His resume speaks for himself. And so although I'm disappointed, I really hope that they, they come out, they make it a game, and they have Florida on their toes, because that's crazy.
Yeah, and I was questioning. I saw Coach Jones tweet something about that too. He kind of hinted at, but I was also thinking, I mean, I used to be super big into basketball. I've kind of moved away a little bit, but a lot of teams get in because of history and or legacy. And if you look at Norfolk State, I mean, they beat Missouri 12 years ago. And then they have a history, and they've been in the tournament the last couple of years, and they've done very well in the mid-major. So why not get them the benefit of the doubt above and beyond the 16 seed? So it's not like it was their first year going into the tournament and they're getting a 16 seed. It seems, I mean, they have some recent history in terms of being competitive and a history of being one of the upsets that come out of the HBCU diaspora.
And unfortunately, that's just the reality of that seating room. And that's why I made that tweet. It should be a requirement for not just, and then someone said they came to the MEAC tournament. I don't care if they come to the MEAC tournament. What are they watching during the regular season? Why does that entire room look almost the same? Like, and I know there's regulations and there's stipulations. There's like, you have to be in your position for 5 years in like a certain height, like whatever. But it's just a constant disrespect to HBCUs and I'm like, and I'm not even saying this to like, try and pump them up or anything, but like they really did not deserve a 16 seed based off of resume alone.
Yeah.
Resume. Yes. If that's how they're making decisions, I'm confused how you're making your decisions. And that's why when people are like, oh, it's neck, it's this. I'm like, no, it's because we're Black. It's because we're an HBCU. Like, let's call it a spade what it really is. Like that, they don't go off of that when it comes to they don't go off a net when it comes to HBCUs. And that's why I'm glad Norfolk State women went in there and beat those SEC teams, because if they didn't, they would have lowballed them even more. Like it's just this undoubtedly consistency to have to prove yourself when like Coach Jones has proved himself time and time again with the rosters that he's had. So it's like we just have to keep our foot on their necks all the time, like constantly calling them out. And even like, I'll say it, the mid-major top 25 was playing with Norfolk State a lot this year. Like they kept taking them out and taking them out. Mind you, he only lost 3 games in conference play. And one was to a team they got coach hands with, who was a very good team this year. So, that's really what it comes down to. Because they can't be going off a resume. They just can't. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given them a 16 seed. Because when you look at other mid-majors who had worse records than Norfolk State, who got a higher seed, it blows my mind. And High Point alone, that win alone, who they were a top 10 team in the mid-major the entire season, getting that win alone should have boosted them up. There's not that much disparity like for them to be a 16 seed when they're 13. So, I know Coach Jones said his little tweet. He's not afraid to say things on Twitter at all. But I hope they go in there with the right mentality and just play Norfolk State's type of basketball and, make it a game, because why not?
Thank you.
And sorry if I went on a tangent, but like the constant disrespect is crazy.
Yeah. Hey, no, great points, Liv. Great points.
And I will say a lot of these coaches who are on those voting for like top 25, they do not pay attention to HBCU basketball at all. So we're lucky that we have, a few people that do, but that's why we have to constantly, I'm going to just keep going back to this. If we don't promote our own, no one will. Like it will just fall to the wayside. Even when you see the type of season Norfolk State has had, how many big huge outlets have picked up their story and have actively been talking about them. I've seen very few. And considering the season they've had, everyone should be talking about. They're one of the best mid-majors in the entire country, and they have a player who is going to be drafted in the WNBA draft. Like, so I don't know. All I know is we can support our own, and we can get those viewership up and get those tweets about them out and do what we can in order to, you know, promote our coaches, our players, our teams, and make sure they feel supported through, you know, out of conference. This is the most teams I've seen play in postseason play. Even when I look at NAI, the amount of teams, both Florida Memorial's men and women made it, both Zula's men and women made it, both Langston men and women, and those are 3 teams all in predominantly white conferences. The men and women made it for both Stillman's men's and women won the regular season and got to go. Dillard went, Philander Smith went. All these teams, I'm like, 4 women made the WNIT. North Carolina A&T made, so women are really putting on per usual, like we always do. Women, North Carolina A&T made the WNIT. Like, these are games where we can really put, you know, the schools, the teams, HBCUs on the map. And so, you know, I'm very happy for every team that has success and that get this moment to, you know, show the product that we have.
Well said, Liv. Drop the mic.
Exactly. Mic drop. Liv.
Men's teams got to catch up, though, just a little bit. They kind of lacking behind. So
they are. Men got one win, though. They got a win last night, though. So
they did. Shout out to Alabama State. Yeah, them and Norfolk State are our only hope right now. So
well said, Liv. Hey, appreciate everything that you give to the sport, and your voice is very much needed out there.
Yeah.
And your time tonight, beautiful. Thank you. And thank your co-host. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
All right, Liv. Be well. Put that one.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Bye. Oh man, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Marcus, what do you got for us in terms of some recruiting information that we want to close the show out?
Do you have did you get access to the PowerPoint? I didn't pull it up. It should be shared. Hopefully I should.
Okay, hold on. It should be shared.
It's just 225. Sorry, what am I saying? 2025 commits and signees Olympic sports. So just an update of what we've already, because we got a couple more, and actually a couple volleyball ones that came across. Coach Gokhan has been sneaking them under the radar. I've been trying to find it.
All right. I'm here. If you want to,
is it not
go
sharing?
ahead. Yeah, hold on, because you sent it to me with the share drive, and so now I gotta actually go here and find it here.
Sorry.
If you want to go ahead and start. I'll see here if this
yes, I didn't find any new softball signees. So all of those are pretty much common. They signed in November. In volleyball, the first 2 signees we know about, Kristen Moore out of Virginia Academy and Victoria Santana, who's a transfer that came in for UNC Charlotte. She came at the beginning of the semester. But Brandy Boston, actually found her. She committed over the summer. She's from Sierra Canyon High School in Chatsworth. And I think we may have talked about her before because her older brother, I think Brandon Boston, plays in the NBA. I think he may be a reserve on one NBA team. But recently, I think as recently as last Friday, Alexandra Moore, the twin sister of our signee from at Virginia Academy, Kristen Moore. I think she committed to FAM, and she's a 6'2" middle blocker. So they both go about 6'2". And they made the VISSA Division II All-State Volleyball team as juniors, didn't make it as seniors. But so that's the Virginia Independent School Athletic Association. So they had some talent, and they made it to the quarterfinals for Division II Virginia Independent State Schools Association for their tournament. So they made it basically 2 rounds away from the title game. And coincidentally, when I saw that, they had clicked. They're actually following another person who just committed maybe a week ago. Her name is LaDonna Trantham, and she's out of suburban Chicago, Flossmoor, Illinois. She's a 5'9" middle blocker and outside hitter. And from her stature and maybe a couple of the articles that I've read, I don't want to put a jinx on her or anything, but she seems very athletic because she started out as a gymnast when she was younger, like in her elementary school. But I'd imagine if she's playing as a middle blocker outside hitter, that she may be very similar to Brooklyn Watts in terms of her athleticism, her vertical, and everything like that. And she was voted the Illinois Volleyball Coaches Association Class 4A first team, and she was also voted Player of the Year for her conference in the Southwest Suburban Conference. So this Kristen Moore, she signed in November. Victoria Santana, she transferred in the spring semester. So we talked about them before. The next one is the young lady from California. So middle blocker. So we're looking at pretty much 4 high school. Let's see, 4 high school signees and 1 transfer so far. Alexandra Moore is the twin sister who just committed last week, the twin sister of Kristen, who signed in November. And they both go 6'2", and middle blocker, outside hitter. And this is a young lady, LaDonna Trantham, that committed about a week ago. She was previously committed to, I want to say, Cal State Bakersfield, but she recently flipped over to FAMU. So that's some good news there. And Coach Gokhan did mention last time he was on, I want to say it was when it was signing day. It was one of the days I couldn't attend, but I listened to it afterward. He said someone just showed up that week or was coming that Monday, and I don't know who that is just yet. But that sounds like it's implying like it's another transfer, but I haven't seen any commitment yet. If we skip down to women's basketball, which is a little further down. Yep. We know about Xana Justice. She signed in November, but her team, Milton High School, made it to the Class 5A state semifinals. And she was also named on the all-region first team for Class 5A Region 7 for Georgia. So she brings some height, even though, youth, no collegiate experience, but some height, some bulk in the middle. So we know about her. Nia Rhodes, the next one, she signed as well. So this is someone we've previously talked about, but her team won apparently its 4th consecutive Division II state championship for the Tennessee Independent School Association. So, and she also was, I was looking for any accolades that she may have had, but once again, bringing some championship pedigree. And the next young lady, Brooklyn Swan, her team made it to the 3rd round of the Class 3A playoffs in North Carolina. And she goes 5'10", so I don't know if she goes a small forward, like a wing, small forward. I'm not sure what the thought is there. And the next young lady, which we just saw, and actually I think, Bryan, you sent this to me, so I followed up on it. Cornelia Ellington. She's a 5'7" guard out of Langston Hughes in Georgia. And her team also made the class, they made the Class 5A finals and lost to River Ridge High School in the state title game. But she made the all-region Region 3 basketball team and Player of the Year for Region 3. I don't think they've released the all-state teams yet. I was looking this evening before the show, but I'd imagine she may make a place in a Class 5A all-state team for girls basketball in the state of Georgia. And I think that's all the updates. I haven't seen anything from basketball or any of the other sports yet, but at least I wanted to update basketball with the 1 or 2 verbal commits since the last time we talked, and the volleyball with the 2 or 3.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. So as you can see, women's basketball loading up, trying to load up for the future. We'll get into a little more conversation next week regarding the rosters, and we'll see maybe some more movement in the portal, because I think the portal officially opens up on Monday. So all of the speculation that's being reported, whether you follow Live or whether you follow other sites, they're putting a lot of names out there, but we haven't seen the official designations yet. That'll start on Monday. So, and then we'll see. So we'll have some more news next week. We'll be working on, again, trying to get our postseason interviews with Coach Gordon and Coach Crary over the next couple of weeks. So guys, be on the lookout for that. Might even be working on a special guest for next week's show. Our biggest guest yet. Now, we've had some pretty big guests on the show, but I think this will be top of the food chain type guest, right? I think so.
Absolutely. It'll be a first.
It'll be a first, right? Top of the food chain, right? And so it'll be huge. So just stay tuned. Make sure we'll definitely give a proper notice on this one. But again, Kelvin, any final words here as we close out the show tonight?
Well, no, looking forward to this weekend. I think baseball, softball, both on the road in Alabama. One's at Alabama State. The baseball and softball is at Alabama A&M. Pretty important tournaments. We didn't talk about tennis, but tennis got swept, unfortunately, by Alabama State this weekend. I think they got Southern coming up. And I think track is off until next week. Golf. Golf did participate in the tournament. In Georgia, Saint whatever island, but they finished like 14 to 15 out of 20 teams, 19 teams. So it was a kind of rough outing for them. It was a non-HBCU event also. So just wanted to get those updates, and because we want to give shine and pay attention to all of our sports. So that's all I wanted to share.
And I think related to golf, we did have a SWAC golfer of the week.
Yes.
I was trying to pull it up here while you were talking. I think it was Sashin. I want to make sure. He was the SWAC men's golfer of the week. So shout out to Sasha. I will close the show by just saying the madness of March begins officially at noon Eastern tomorrow. If you have not seen the tweets that I've been posting, or if you haven't been looking at our Facebook pages, and you're looking for a bracket challenge to get into, if you're looking for a survivor contest, I got you covered. So go follow me check me out on X. I'll be posting that info again tonight. Or go check out the BCSN Sports Rap Facebook page. Go check out the Black College Sports Network Facebook page. But I got a survivor contest and a bracket challenge contest all ready to roll. So I'd love for as many of you are listening and watching to come join us, join the family on our bracket contest, and let's have a little fun. $10 entry fee on the survivor contest, winner take all, and a $5 entry on the bracket contest. First, second, and third place winners, cash money coming right to your pocket. I never had to touch a dollar of it, so it's like clean. It's like genius. But I want you guys to come join us, man. Help. We're trying to find ways to continue to engage with you guys, because you guys mean a lot to us, and you guys are always a part of what we do and why we do it. So these little contests, let's have some fun. I know you guys are some of you, majority of you, have been doing brackets in your office or your different groups and family, friends. But great opportunity. Come join our pool. Come join our contest. And let's have a little fun as we watch March Madness. I'm going to echo again what Liv said. Make sure you support tomorrow, big day of HBCU basketball, NAIA, of course, the NCAAs going on, men, women, and we're rooting for Southern tonight. Hopefully, Southern women continue dominating in the fashion that they are tonight. So we wish them well, and and of course, thank Coach Colzie for coming on earlier for giving us the spring update. Make sure you're looking out for the news regarding some of those hires. Should be coming out this week in the next day or two from FAMU Athletics or AD Suggs. And with
the sports information director also started today. So
Dennis Driscoll.
I'm surprised.
So hopefully
he's coming over from Alabama State. Matter of fact, that's why.
That's why I'm surprised. Is I figured he might have prolonged his stay until their tournament run ends, but I guess not.
He pushed it back one day. He was supposed to be here Tuesday, and pushed it back to the day. So hopefully in short order we'll start getting some updates and content on our site.
Shout out, and that info came out short. Shout out to Keith and Things Up podcast. His interview with AD Suggs. If you guys caught that from last week, that information came out as AD Suggs had mentioned the fact that Dennis was joining the department from Alabama State, and so that's where that came from. So shout out to Keith, shout out to AD Suggs, and welcome to the family, Dennis. And I'm sure we will get a chance to talk to him once he gets settled and kind of gets into office and figures out what's what. And so we look forward to, as I tweeted out, we hope some of that championship magic that he ended his tenure at Alabama State, we bring some of that down to Tallahassee. So we'll welcome him on. And again, Gato, if you're looking for the pool, it's on. I will tweet it out again, but if you go to our Facebook page, Facebook BCSN Sports Wrap, or go check out the Black College Sports Network Facebook page. I've got 2 different pools. I'll retweet them again from our O&G account on our Facebook page, on our X, and everywhere. So hopefully you guys find time to come join us tonight. All right, that's going to do it. Well, we appreciate you guys hanging in there with us through all of the challenges of today, but hopefully we gave you a good show and a lot to talk about and gave you some information to take out there to the masses. Please make sure to share our show with the family wherever they are, on X, on Instagram, on Facebook. Just let people know about our show if you can. All of you who watch, if you share it with just one rattler, it'll help continue to grow. Make sure you're following us at O&G StrikeZone. And hey, go check out the BCSN Pod Zone. All the podcast versions of our show available on Spotify.
Up.
Caught him in mid-sentence.
Yeah.
All right. See, the good timing. All right. For Marcus Green, Kelvin Roger, I'm Bryan Fulford. Peace out. Things up. Strike hard, strike fast, strike often. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.